In relation to LEADER, I want to ask you, has there been a review done of the operation of this programme, and who has been consulted in that review, and can we have a look at the review to see if the amalgamation with the local authorities has worked in favour of people? My biggest, the main two criticisms I have of the LEADER project are the bureaucracy around it, the added bureaucracy. And I think it's important that you understand, even though some of the processes where I think we had 17 or 19 steps in the first instance to get approval, to get grant approval, have been addressed somewhat. What I'm really concerned about is that we have lost the opportunity of many what could have been really good businesses starting up because the animation isn't there that was there under the other programs. So while the LEADER program was with the local companies, you were able to have a worker to work in at the pre-development stage, to work in developing the businesses on the ground. So I just want to see if the evaluation, and I just want to ask you, just to remind me again, the amount that was in the last LEADER programme and the amount that's in this LEADER programme. If all of the money within this LEADER programme isn't spent, drawn down by the deadline, how will that money be reallocated? When will the decision be made about the money being reallocated, and what criteria will be used?
Senator Walsh asked about a review of the operation of this programme. There is an overall review, I think it's called an enhanced implementation report, that is has been contracted out to an independent consultancy of the overall rural development programme. And if I'm correct, it's Indicon that's undertaking that. And as part of that, they are reviewing the operation of the LEADER programme. And that includes, I know they're doing surveys of both the LAGs and recipients, and they're having different working groups with different stakeholders to look at the operation of the programme. That's underway at the moment, so we'll await the outcome of that review.
When are you expecting that?
I'm not, it doesn't come under my immediate responsibility, but I understand it's probably later in the summer before it's due to come back. They are currently working on it, but I can come back to you with the date for finalisation of that if you like.
I think it's important to this committee, because it would be hugely important that the outcome of that review would inform, obviously, part of your strategic plan, and if the deadline for that is January 2020, that really needs to be.
I certainly will come back with the information. I know that all of the different the physical work that the review group are doing, and the information that we have to provide, and the different surveys, the deadline for completion of all of that is the end of April. So I expect the report will come shortly after that, but I will come back with a firm date as to when we can expect it. In terms of the bureaucracy and your colleagues, before you mentioned the bureaucracy, I have indicated some of the steps that we have taken to try and address bureaucracy under the programme. You mentioned the use of development workers to work with businesses and communities to develop projects. I suppose that is the strength of LEADER, and has always been the strength of LEADER, and that continues to be an important part of it. A large proportion of the funding that goes out on LEADER is for animation. And in most areas there's a number of different project workers who are working with potential applicants to develop applications. Deputy Fitzmaurice asked, could it be made simpler? I suppose everything can be made simpler, and we're continuing to try and make it a more efficient and effective programme. I would say it's simpler now than it was before. It's simpler now in terms of what an applicant has to do compared to the last programme. We've recently made changes as regards the checking process. It was previously done by PUBL. From the start of next month, the local authorities will be doing that at a local level, so that there can be more engagement at a local level rather than it being done nationally. We have engaged with the stakeholders to see what more can be done. We continue to do that. The chairman mentioned the forum that was held by Minister Humphreys in May of 2017. We actually had another forum last September that was hosted by Minister Ring, And a big proportion of that event was looking at what we can do under the next programme. And we have a number of ideas that have came through from that. One in particular that was strongly made was the need to have perhaps a simpler process for smaller amounts of grant aid, so that they wouldn't be going through the same amount of paperwork as somebody who's applying for a €200,000 grant. And that's certainly something that we will look at within the confines of the regulation for the next programme. Just on your last point, Senator, as regards the level of spend under the programme, I think the total amount spent under the last programme was about 366 million. The budget for this programme is 250 million. We expect to have all of that allocated by the end of 2020. Certainly some of the payments would run into 2021 and perhaps 2022. But we continue to monitor that. We will review it towards the end of the year, and we will have a better idea of exactly how long it will take to draw down all of the funding. But our expectation now is that all of that funding will be spent.
So we had a reduction of 116 million under this LEADER programme. That's correct, yes.
The budget of the last programme was initially 400. I think it was 366 that was spent. The budget for this programme is 250 million.
So a reduction of 116 million
compared to the last programme, yes.
Yeah. Why was that?
Well, I suppose that's a political question for the ministers who were there at the time. I suppose you have to look at the size of the overall rural development programme this time round compared to the last time, and the different funding percentage that was made as part of that. I wasn't there at the time, and I wasn't there at the programme. I'm not aware of the full size of the last rural development programme, but certainly what was put into this rural development programme at 7% of the European funding is higher than the minimum that's required. And I believe it's not dissimilar to what was done previously, but I would need to check the figures on that and come back to you.